Hello everyone and welcome to our very first Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin live stream. I'm Arthur, one of the community team here at Frontier, and I'm joined for the first time ever by the wonderful Phil. Say hello, Phil.
Hi everyone, I'm Phil.
So we're very excited about today.
We are.
And we're a little bit nervous because it's your first live stream, isn't it? First live stream ever, and you're a huge Age of Sigmar fan. So this is a good one to come in on, Phil.
Yes, fantastic one to come in.
So how long have you been, are you a fan of a particular faction? Are you a Stormcast fiend?
So, Gloomspike Gits is my faction.
Oh, blimey, right,
Yep.
okay.
I'm a big fan of death and destruction. So,
Oh, okay, so I'm glad I'm sitting next to you then. That's great, that makes me feel a lot safer. But of course, you're not here to talk about, obviously, our wants and our needs and our desires. We're here to show you something quite special. So, for those of you who missed it, on the PC Gaming Show, we premiered the gameplay trailer for Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin, an RTS from Frontier. If you missed it, well, don't worry, we're going to play it for you right now.
Peggy 16.
Commander, there is the stench of death about this place. Not just from the orcs.
Death comes for everyone. Eventually. Except us. Fortify our position. We must claim this swamp.
Enemy sighted.
Sneaky Dusty.
Sigmar, give me strength!
Think it's time for a fight, boys! Protect the bastion! We need the loot! Like flies to a corpse! They always come!
Aiden, I will take the fight to the Orc Warlord. You hold here.
Fate conspires against us both.
Not fate. Duty.
Get him!
All right, I think that's it's fair to say it's a fairly exceptional trailer, Phil. I was enjoying the comments. Particularly enjoyed Evil Dobby that was in there. So thank you, chat. We can see you, by the way. Hello to everyone in chat for joining us. But today we've got even more to talk about, loads more to talk about, in fact. And we can't do that on our own, can we, Phil?
We can't, no.
So we actually have two very special guests. So welcome, the wonderful Philippa and the wonderful Sandro. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Now, look. I know you're no stranger to live streams, but for the benefit of the audience, the wider audience, can you go through who you are and what you do? Starting with Philippa.
Right, okay. Hi, I'm Philippa. I'm an animation programmer. What that means is that I'm not actually an animator, but what I do is I write code that basically adds sort of procedural animation and physics-driven simulation to the work that our animators do to make it more responsive to the game environment.
That sounds incredibly complex. I was getting confused as you spoke, but it sounds like you have a really important job, Philippa. Amazing. Right, we'll come into we'll talk a lot more about animation and stuff in a little bit. Sandy, what about yourself?
Hello, I'm Sandy. I'm a principal designer at Frontier. I've been here a long time, and I'm looking after the gameplay and the story for Realms of Ruin.
Small role then. You've got a small role in the.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I'm supported by an absolutely fantastic team.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, it's all the mistakes probably mine. All the glorious stuff, that's the team. And
you are a very humble man, Sandy, but you're right to point out there is a whole team behind everyone on the sofa here.
Dedicated people, yeah.
But thank you both for joining us.
You're welcome.
We've got some questions for you. I'm sure there'll be some for chat. Now, we've got a lot to go through, chat, so if we don't get to all your questions on here, some of it we'll see you asking, some of it we know you're asking, some of it we're not going to tell you today because we're going to keep something back for surprises. But we have got a lot to go through. So I guess, Sandy, for people that aren't aware or are not sure, can you give us like a top level view of what sort of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin is?
Right, so yeah, Realms of Ruin is fundamentally, it's a modern take on a real-time strategy game. So a genre that's been around for a long time. And that's coupled with our fantastic partners of Games Workshop. They're awesome game world of Age of Sigmar, which is the setting for the game.
Yeah.
But you, like any RTS, you take control of a load of units on various battle maps. You fight for control of territory and access to resources. You tech up, you unlock cool new abilities, and then you go and crush your opponent. So that's anyone that's played an RTS.
Yeah.
We didn't want to fix what wasn't broken.
Yeah.
We don't want to reinvent the wheel. First and foremost, we want a really exciting, fun, fast-paced RTS. But also, obviously, we have a fully featured cinematic story as well.
This is something you're very excited about when you
So
knew there was a story. So do you want to ask this question about?
Yeah, so
Without spoilers, obviously. I don't want to drop you. Don't get him in trouble. We're not in your first stream, all right? But yeah, go for it.
no, so I know the story was co-written with Gav Thorpe. That must have been absolutely amazing to
big
do.
shout out to Gav Thorpe. He's Mr. Awesome. So it really helped kind of bring the story together, make sure it was cohesive, and also just add that authenticity of proper Games Workshop lore. So we made sure that what we were doing always fit in with what the lore allowed. And he's just an all-round nice guy as well, and incredibly talented. So yeah, it was really, really fun, because the world of Age of Sigmar, it's just this fantastical set of magical realms where you can do a lot of cool stuff. So the realms themselves are really interesting.
Yeah. So without giving away too much about the story, because we obviously want players to go through it and experience it and play it. Can you give us like a synopsis or just like a brief overview of what's kind of happening?
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. I talk too much, so just shut up.
I'm sure chat will be like, no, let Sandy go. Just let him talk.
So fundamentally, and I think this fits in line with the current what's currently going on in the Age of Sigmar lore. There are these Dawnbringer crusades. So all of the realms, and there are 8 mortal realms. They're all magical realms formed from the magic from an exploded world, which is just pretty awesome anyway. But in one particular world that we're focusing on, Gur, which is the realm of beasts and wild magic, the realm has been racked by violence and war for thousands of years, and now finally the forces of order, led by Sigmar himself, they're striking out from their few strongholds, and they're going out to resettle the land and reclaim it and civilise it again. And they're doing this with these Dawnbringer crusades and these valiant, hardy men that go out into the wilds, and they set up these fortresses and they try and civilise the land, and most of them don't make it. It's a horrible place. And then of the few that do, most of those don't last very long. So, but what we've got is in our story is it's a settlement that actually it has prospered a little bit. They got there, it survived for a while, but now it's fallen on really hard times. And
surprise!
Exactly. So the defenders, a Stormcast Eternal's detachment that was sent there to protect it, most of them have been called away. So it's whittled down, and it's under constant threat from a rather psychopathic cruel boy killer boss. I love the names. Who's intent on just basically laying it low. And our story focuses on effectively the desperate gamble that the Stormcast Eternals have to make to try and protect this Dawnbringer settlement, and it leads them into the darkest of swamps, where they come across some interesting challenges.
Okay, I think that's enough for now. For now, there'll be more, I'm sure, going forwards. But of course, it's not just a single-player game that is one of the features. We have multiplayer.
Yes.
We have 1v1, 2v2. You can play against the AI.
Yep.
And we'll do some messaging around this later on. There's also an open beta that's coming up, so players will actually have to get on and try it out for the first time. We'll stress it's a beta, so I say beta, tomato, right? But it is what it is. We're there to stress test the fundamentals of the game. The servers need to be stress tested, the balancing needs to be looked at. So we are fully asking for your feedback to go in there. I say break it, I don't want to say break it, but try. See how it works. We'll come to that later on. But there's lots more to this game than just, obviously, we've got the single-player campaign, we've got 4 factions.
There are 4 factions, yes.
But we're only talking about 2, so you can stop your speculation and chat. So we obviously we've announced the Stormcast Eternals and we announced the Uruks Cruel Boys. 2 more will come in time. And we'll talk about them. You can speculate as much as you want about that. But there's a lot going on here within Age of Sigmar. Ramza, I guess what a question for both of you really, maybe Philippa first. What are you most excited to see players sort of get their hands on? Maybe if not the beta, but just I know you can't say the final game because it'll be stuff in there we haven't announced. We'll get in trouble.
Secrets.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for people to see quite how much. I know the level of detail is something that we talk about quite a lot, but I think Frontier is quite known for, especially on the animation side, obviously, which is the area that I work with the most. This sort of attention to detail, really fine creature animations and responsiveness and all that rest of it. I'm really excited for people to see how that translates into an RTS and how, with the sheer scale of the number of units and animated things on screen at any one time, I'm really excited for people to see how, we haven't cut back. We haven't cut back from the level of detail and the kind of amazing animation work that we're known for. It's all in there, and it's all at this incredible scale for you to kind of look at and view while you're commanding, 10 squads around the map. Yeah,
I mean, I think that was one of the things when I was very lucky to see one of the early milestones. And I looked and I was like, oh, this must be a cutscene. I was like, no, that's the unit in the game. And I was like, what? And I think I've typed it in almost every single milestone. It's like, you do realise you're making RTS, guys, right? It's not, the detail is phenomenal. And of course, this is for everyone, right? It's for console players, so Xbox Series, X and S, PS5, PC, it's cross-play. I mean, you're going all out on this. I mean, this is a fantastic sort of, I know I'm a console player, I've been crying out for an RTS, crying out for one. So I'm like, thank you for making it. All right, okay, so we've talked about sort of some of the things that are in sort of Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin. We've talked about sort of the single player and multiplayer, four playable factions. We've talked about where it's going to be available. So we do have a thing to remind everybody. So there's a couple of things that's quite exciting, and we've got a world premiere coming up any moment now, which we'll get to. We are going to get to it. But just before that, we've got a few things we're going to go through. The first thing I want to remind everybody about is we have a competition running at the moment on our socials. So if you haven't seen it, you've got a chance to win this incredible PC. I think it's got a 4070 graphics card. Now, I can't go through the whole. That's the actual thing that me and Phil for scale. This thing is massive. It's the size of a house, but it's huge. So you're going to want to make sure you're following all of our socials. So make sure you're following on our Instagram, our Facebook, our Discord, our Twitter. Follow our YouTube. Follow our wonderful partners at Overclockers who have helped build this fantastic monster PC for you to have a chance to win. I think there's a couple of weeks on this yet, so you've got a chance to enter. There's probably more ways to get points, right? I've probably listed them all, but there
are, I think there's 14 ways in total.
So you've got 14 tickets. There's a little fly here, so I should have left my pets at home, but it's hanging around me. We talked about the swamps of Gur, and there's flies arrived. So yeah, have a check of that competition. It really is worth 5 minutes of your time just to follow us on those socials. Plus, you get to see all of the cool news first. So have a look to see there. And the second thing I really want to remind you all about, we touched on it briefly, but we do have an open beta, if you're me and you can't say it properly, and that's running between the 7th and the 10th of July. Now, again, I will stress wholeheartedly, this is us asking you, the players, to really go in and go down on the game as it stands. It's not by any means finished. We're still looking to stress test our servers to see what breaks, see what falls down. We need your help to do that. And we're obviously looking at some of the balancing for some of the units. But in recompense for doing that, you get to actually play around with the two factions. So you get to have a look at the Stormcast Eternals and the Uruk Cruel Boys. You get to see how the mechanics of the game work, which we'll probably touch on a bit later on in the show. And you can have a taster for what sort of Realms of Ruin is all about. So, I guess, only because I like saying world premiere, we should probably... Producer Adam, are we ready? All right.
Is it time?
It is time, I think. Right, so for everyone in chat, this is our world premiere of the faction focus for the Stormcast Eternals. Enjoy.
Peggy 16.
The Stormcast Eternals are mortal heroes that have been transformed into supernatural warriors in the forges of Azir. Each the embodiment of Sigmar's storm. They are the God King's wrath made manifest, and they were created for one single purpose: outright war. While they may be few, when a Stormcast Eternal falls, they are brought back time and time again to fight anew. In Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin, you will command the mighty Stormcast Eternals in their quest to defend an ailing Dawnbringer settlement from unrelenting raids by the wicked and savage Orc Krulboys. Sigrun, commander of a detachment of Stormcast Eternals, embarks on a perilous mission to the wild and savage swamps of Gur. She seeks to obtain a great artifact that will help them turn the tides against the Orc menace. The Stormcast Eternals are a robust, elite army that excel when fighting in a combined force of frontline fighters and ranged attackers. Their access to a variety of different troops and reliance on well-rounded forces requires a hefty investment of resources to hold their ground. The steadfast Stormcast Eternal heroes have abilities to heal and resurrect fallen units, or lead from the front with devastating charges and powers that call down the storm to obliterate enemies. As commander, you'll have access to a wide range of units, including Annihilators, formidable and elite soldiers, emboldened by impervious thunderstrike armor and devastating meteoric hammers. Prosecutors, warrior heralds of Sigmar, who soar through the battlefield at incredible speeds, unhindered by the grasping swamps of Gur. And finally, the mighty Stormdrake Guard, dragon-riding knights capable of annihilating enemy hordes with lance, claw, and righteous wormflame. Issuing the right commands is just as crucial as the squads you bring to the battlefield. When playing with a gamepad, you'll have access to an innovative control scheme that gives you the tactical flexibility you need to conquer your enemies. With the direct step system, you'll enjoy the immediacy of traditional real-time strategy controls mapped onto a controller. Issue orders, snap instantly between squad selections, and use a classic RTS camera view to survey distant forces and objectives. Then experience the pounding heart of battle up close and execute precise commands as the clash intensifies. Direct Step enables you to quickly respond to the conflict as it evolves, activating squad abilities, creating groups of squads, and balancing a war across multiple fronts. The Stormcast Eternals are just one of 4 factions coming to Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin.
There we go. So that was a world premiere. I didn't say it, did I? World premiere of the Stormcast Eternals faction focus video. I actually got tiny goosebumps on my arm. My hair's standing up. Incredible, incredible stuff. Right, you're sat on the sofa. I'm going to start asking questions about this, and we have some questions that are coming from chats. And so we'll answer some, not all, because we'll be careful in the spoiler territory. So someone asked, could we see some gameplay? Well, apart from the obviously hand-drawn stuff, that was gameplay. That was in-game footage you were seeing there of the Stormcast Eternals in action, kicking some serious Uruk butt, I think is fair to say, in some of those scenes. And we'll talk about how good the team have made that in a moment. But there's another question there about the units when they were using abilities, and does it cost a resource? And we won't go into too much, but Sandy,
it does. We've got 2 resources in the game, Command and Realmstone. They're both vital. Balancing how you get them, how you use them is important. And abilities do use resources, so you can't just spam them and once you've teched up to them and win a game that way. But they're pretty cool, the effects you get from them.
Yeah, so there we go. So you can use them, but so timing is everything, right? Timing and placement, when you're going to use them, will be super, super important. Right. Okay, so we looked at the faction. We'll keep an eye on chat, see if there's any more questions coming in. I think another one was there a Discord? Phil, you set it up. Is there a Discord?
I did. There is a Discord, yes.
Go on.
I think Paul has put the link in the chat already, so jump on in and join in chat.
Yes, come and join us, especially ahead of the beta. It'd be great to have everyone in there chatting and discussing stuff. That'd be really, really useful for all of us. But Sandy, we had a look at the Stormcast there. They look pretty solid as a faction. Like, I mean, in every sense of the word.
Physically solid. Yeah. They're suits of the people in giant suits of magical armour. They've been forged literally on the anvil of apotheosis, I believe, something like that.
Sounds painful, but
yeah,
probably
it is painful. Actually, the Stormcast, as an aside, and I probably shouldn't be don't need to talk about this, but the Stormcast are a great faction because they're these heroes, souls of heroes that are reforged quite literally into living, walking weapons. But they still retain their own personalities. And each time they die and get reforged again, or mainly get reforged again, a little bit of their humanity is chipped away on the anvil.
It's never just nice, is
no,
it,
so
Sandy? It's never just nice.
There's a bit of a darkness to them, which I think makes them really, really interesting.
No, you died, have a cup of tea, then get back out. It's not that. You died, let me take some of humanity and then get back out there and fight.
Yeah, it's we're gonna hammer you back into shape and then chuck you back to the wolves. They're very tough. Yeah.
I was going to say, as a faction, could you give me an overview?
An overview, yeah. They're tough. They're very resilient. That Sigmarite armour is impressive. They've got a lot of staying power. Quite expensive. They're quite elite. So they're a little bit more expensive on the whole, and you tend to have fewer numbers in the units of them. But they also. What they rely on is a kind of combined force of arms.
Yep.
So they're very versatile. They've got flyers, they've got artillery, they've got cool heroes and strong frontline troops. So working in concert with each of the different types, they can pretty much overcome any foe. They don't tend to try and excel in any one area.
Yeah.
But except staying power. Right?
I mean, if they weren't so tanky, you'd be surprised when you're looking at them. You'd be like, you look like you can take a bit of a hit.
They've got big shields and big hammers and big swords.
I was immediately drawn.
And everything's wreathed in lightning. What's not to like?
Yeah, exactly. Who could not like them?
Yeah.
I guess, and without spoilers, do all the factions have like kind of their own ethos sort of thing?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, although as an RTS you control them all in the same way, you move them around, you purchase them, purchase reinforcements, and you trigger abilities and tech up. Each of the factions also has has themes that it progresses. Yeah. The resilience is one of the themes of the Stormcast, where you can upgrade their toughness even more, so they've got even more staying power. Others like the Auric Crawl Boys. They don't follow quite that same path. They've got other tricks up their sleeve to counter it. So yeah, every faction has a kind of a set of themes that help.
They play to.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't they're not super enforced. You can play it however you want, but they've got specialities that they're better at than the others.
Yeah, and we talk about. I mean, I think if you go to the website, you can see the triangle of sort of combat, how that works. Do you want to talk about how that works?
Yeah, so it's partly to make sure that it's accessible as a game. There is a lot of strategy and depth in there, but for a new player, all of the units have little icons that describe their overall behaviour, and we've got three main types of icon. We've got bows, shields, and swords. So. Shield icons, they represent heavily armoured troops that have got a lot of staying power, and they're very resistant to ranged attacks, so they overcome bows.
Yeah.
But they are themselves overcome by swords, who tend to have powerful charge attacks and the ability to defeat armour. But obviously they get wrecked by bows. So it's a nice little triangle. Obviously we subvert it all the time, and heroes fall outside of that, and some other units kind of fall outside of that combat triangle. But it's like a nice quick identifier for if you see an enemy unit approaching you and you think, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
If you look at the icon above the unit, you've got an idea. You understand
that.
Okay, right. I've got an idea. I've got an idea of what they're kind of going to be good at, and what it might need to counter them. So it's hopefully
quick to learn.
Exactly.
Hard to master. Right.
That's the plan. That's the plan. That's what we're going for. That's hopefully the beta results from the beta will help us, refine that even further. So. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing that. Scared, but looking forward to seeing the results.
I guess a question for both of you, and maybe Philippa. I mean, how is it with the development team when you know you're this close to actually putting something you've worked for such a long time on, and you'd literally have to put it into people's hands for the first time. I mean, some part of you must be exhilarated, but there must be another part of you that must be absolutely terrified. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really strange knowing that you put so much of yourself into a project over the last few years. And it's sort of, for these years, it's sort of been our little project.
Yeah.
Like, we've been playing it, we've been making it, and we're like, this is ours. And now the thought of other people getting their hands on it is really strange. I'm like, it's not yours, it's mine.
Yeah, don't want to give it to him.
It's my toys. I've got to share them. I want to share them. But I think it's. I'm really excited. I mean, I know we came into it relatively late. Obviously, you guys have been making it for quite some time, years. I think it's
considerable time. Yeah.
And we got to play it, and I know you've been playing as the Uruks. Shout out to you for winning. I think you're the first to get a win. So well done for the first to get a win. I've got to say it. Shout out to Sally who beat me on a 1v1. It was Stormcast versus Stormcast, and Sally beat me. Fairly certain she was cheating, but still. But we've had a blast playing, and I think it's nice for us to share our enthusiasm with a team that have been so close to a project for so long. And sometimes you know, because you're literally just now making stuff. At this point, we're really close. Yeah.
So this is why we need to start branching out and getting feedback from more people, basically, to get those finishing touches. We're really proud of what we've got, and we're super excited. But yeah, like Philippa says, it's strange going, oh my God, other people will get to look at this and play with it. I wonder what they think. I hope that people enjoy it. It's been fantastic to make.
Yeah, it's like watching your kid go off to school for the first time.
Yeah.
Without you.
Exactly, yeah.
Back to the Stormcast sort of faction focus just for a moment. I'll talk about some of the units in a moment, but I said it at the start, I'll say it again. I mean, and we saw in chat there, people were just like, I've never seen a game look like this.
Yeah.
I mean, that is testament to the hard work you and your team have put into sort of Realms of Ruin. Can you talk through some of the units and just the intricacies of the work you go into? Because I remember watching milestone videos and I was just like, this is unbelievable. So I don't know if there's anything you can touch on there that you saw on screen.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing about a lot of the work that I personally do is that sometimes you don't notice it unless it's wrong. So it's all these tiny little details.
It's a bit like community management.
Right. So there was a shot of, I think, some liberators walking up a hill, right? And we have a system in there called foot planting, and what that does is it looks at the terrain that they're walking on, and it readjusts the orientation of the feet and the bend of the knees to align the feet with the terrain as they go upwards.
Wow.
Right?
So that's like, if they're like the ankle will be slightly bent, the knees will be slightly bent.
And that is running on all units all the time if they're walking over terrain.
Wow. Okay, and we did see that obviously they are affected by terrain, so the swamps will slow them down and stuff like that, and that is relayed in the animation. So you have to. It is, yes. You have to do that as well.
So I work very closely with our animation team, and what they'll do is they will obviously author these amazing animations. So animations, it's not just mechanical movement. It's the weight of the armor that they're carrying. It's the character. It's if they're full of energy, if they're tired, if they're under attack or whatever, they'll author these animations, and then that will come through to my team, which is a team of 2 people. And what we do is we basically write the code and do all the setup that takes these animations and puts them into the game, and also makes them sort of respond to the game environment. So with ranged units, they might have a cone of, I don't know, a few degrees in which they can aim, more than a few degrees.
Very, very one-eyed.
Yeah, they have a 1 degree aim.
Why are you an archer? I don't know. It's all I had left.
Really good in that 1 degree though.
Yeah.
So for instance,
never miss.
Yeah. So for instance, say we had an archer who could aim, 45 degrees side to side and up and down, right? If you're an animator, you don't want to be producing hundreds of animations for every single incremental degree. So what our animators will actually do is they'll make maybe an up, a down, a left, a right, and a forward. And then what we do is we write code that says, okay, well, we're here, our enemy's there, what angle do we need to aim at? Then we take that angle and we say, okay, we have these animations, how do we blend them together into a combination to get that intermediate angle?
So it's working very closely with all the other teams.
Absolutely,
it's fantastic. I just want to say that Philippa, your team, I think are often the unsung heroes, because the animators, who are fantastic, make beautiful animations, but then what you guys do is you make them work in the game. And that's, like you say, when it works, you don't notice it. You just go, oh, wonderful animation. But there's so much effort and complexity in making it work in all those circumstances. But it works.
But I think it's stunning. But it's also, it's not just yes, it makes the game look absolutely fantastic, but it's also it's informing the player as well, right?
Yeah.
So players are seeing, oh, my unit is slowed down, my unit is fatigued, my unit is under attack, my unit is winning.
Those visual cues are so important, and it's really important to relay them to the player in a way that's obvious, but also responsive, right? You want it to happen when it happens in game, because you need that immediate visual cue, so you can then make those quick decisions based on what you're seeing.
Yeah. We had a sneak peek at some of the units in there, not all of them from the Stormcast. There was a few that I think you glimpse. Well, you actually you don't glimpse the Stormdrake Guard. You definitely see the Stormdrake Guard in all. Well, not all of its glory, but most of its glory.
They are fabulous.
How was that to work with the anime, and what did you do to make that look as good as it looks?
Right. So that one's really interesting. So we have a little bit of tech for this mounted unit. It's animated as one thing, you know, the rider and the mount. But in order to make it look like they're sort of two independent entities coordinating, we have a little bit of tech that kicks in. So if you're going really fast and you're going around a corner, you tend to lean in to your turns and things. So we add a little bit of lean and we add a little bit of twist whenever we have units that are sort of going around tight curved paths. What we do with these mounted units is we have a little bit of tech that kicks in, and the rider leans first, and then the mount follows it.
Wow.
Because if you're riding a horse, you're the one driving, right? You're making the motion to turn, and then the mount follows. So that's what we have to make it feel like they are two independent entities, but they're coordinating together to get you where you want to go. I
mean, that for something that you just look at, that's great. The amount of work that goes into doing that, and that's animating all the different points of the body as well, which is fantastic.
I do want to stress that obviously it's not what I do. It's not meant to replace or hide the work the animators do. It's about highlighting what it is that they're trying to get across. Because, like I said, they're responsible for getting that character and the weight and everything across, and we just kind of make that shine and make it happen in the game. Yeah, no, absolutely. And there was a unit which I can never pronounce correctly, and I can see Sandy's waiting for me to try. I'm going to try. Is it the Celestar Ballista?
The Celestar Ballista, yes.
I think you glimpse it, don't you, in the trailer? That's a little bit unique because it's like multiple units combined, right?
That's really cool. So it's 3 individually animated things: the ballista and the 2 sacristan engineers, and they coordinate together, right? So they coordinate to pick up and deploy and fire this ballista, and if one of the engineers dies, the other one will take over and become the one who mans the ballista and carries it around and fires it and all the rest of it.
But it's a fantastic thing to watch, and it's a level of detail you just don't see.
It's ridiculous. It's that particular unit is a ridiculous amount of detail. Also highlights just how strong Stormcast are. Because that is one weighty piece of machinery, and they're hefting it round. They're getting it around the battlefield.
I love it.
I remember watching it and seeing it again. It was one of the milestones which we are very lucky to get to see. And I remember seeing it, and my jaw was just on the floor. I was like, I can't believe you're doing all this work.
We haven't made lives easier for ourselves. I mean, if you watch the engineer, operating the ballista, she'll fire it, and then when you move, she'll get up. She'll kind of do this really cool little swing underneath the arm of the ballista to go around to the front, and then pick it up, and then drag it, and then put it down. It's amazing. It's so intricate and so complex.
And that's I say an easy one to pick out, but I mean there's a saying of death by 1,000 cuts, but this is literally the opposite. This is like 1,000 sweet little touches that create this amazing sort of whole, right? Across all the units.
How good the every game is not just does it play well, or does it look good, or does it sound good, or does it feel right? It's all of it together.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So. We had some units to have a look at. I did say I'd come back and talk to you, Sandy, about some of the units, and I'm sure there might be some questions in the chat that I might have a look through and see if we see anything in there we can potentially answer. But we looked at just a few of them in here. Now I have a whole load of notes here, chat, so I do apologise. I am cheating a little bit, but there's a lot of info here. So we've looked at on screen what we did see. There were some annihilators. Now talk me through. I don't know if you have any lore stuff, but maybe in the game, what's their roles?
So they're top tier units for Stormcast Eternals. They're basically very, very tanky. Their job is to once they arrive somewhere, go, okay, we're not really going anywhere. So they're very, very resistant to basically everything. They could just sit there and just tank it. And also they've got a fairly fantastic ability that lets them charge through enemy units and just scatter them like bowling pins.
You don't really want to be in the way, do you?
No, they don't. So exactly. On the flip side, they're not the fastest of. They're chunky boys.
Yeah.
They're not the fastest of units. So once they're placed,
Squad for me.
Exactly. You need to think about. Well, I've got them here. It will take them a little while to go somewhere else. Whereas other units, especially ones that are airborne or just move more quickly, would be able to get to other places easier. So you have to you do tend to commit them.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant because they're large. Well, they're about, probably 8 foot tall, and they're really big guys. But they're still human sized. It's really great to see this small unit of like 3 of these annihilators just taken on Orkmus. Not going anywhere. It's like, I can't kill them. They won't go away. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, we touched on it there. I'm sure we'll go into this in a sort of deeper dive on one of the other streams. But we're talking about the units and we're talking about how they move and stuff. But obviously, the world in which this all takes place is also fantastically detailed. And it's not skin deep. There are actually things you have to worry about because you mentioned there about obviously they are slow.
Yeah.
They've got to traverse through a swamp. They're even slower, right?
So you could be slowed down. They could run afoul of things. Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then you mentioned almost in the perfect segue. You've got the prosecutors, right?
Yeah, the prosecutors. They're kind of somewhat poster children for the Stormcast Eternals. These angelic flying warriors, heralds of death and destruction. So they're kind of the opposite. So whereas the Annihilators are very resistant. They're shield units, basically. They sit there and take it. The prosecutors they're damage dealers, and the way that they deal their damage is by getting to you very quickly, so you can't get away because they can fly.
Yeah.
So it's worth mentioning that units that can fly in Realms of Ruin, you can basically take off and land at will, which is really cool. When you're flying, everyone can see you. When you're on the ground,
which is to be expected, right?
Exactly,
With the giant angelic wings,
exactly.
you're going to be seen.
You're hidden by the fog of war, so it's an interesting take because flying is an incredibly powerful utility. You can get to wherever you need to be, and most terrain just isn't really a worry for you. And then the other thing that they've got going for them is that they just deal a lot of damage with their. I think they've got like their
hammers.
Glowing electrified hammers. They've also got an ability where they could just chuck them repeatedly and just saturate an area with these
the most aggressive angels you're ever going to meet.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's, magical barrages. So they're not quite as tough though. So because they are
this balance you were talking about,
they're the sword units. Therefore, if there's a lot of ranged firepower dotted around, you can be careful how you use them, basically.
Yeah.
But they're a lot of fun and they look awesome.
People are asking for more gameplay. We'll run that trailer again for you in a moment, just so you can. I know people want to see more of the gameplay, and we have loads more coming out. And also, we may have mentioned it, but I'll just throw producer Adam off his stride. But there is an open beta coming up, the 7th to the 10th of July. So you won't have to wait not just to see it, but to get your hands on it and play it and play as the Stormcast Eternal. And it's the whole faction, right? It's
the full faction for it.
And the Orc Crawl Boys, where you'll get to see. And again, we'll stress. This is an open beta. It is a beta. It isn't by any means finished. We are looking you to stress test the game, stress test the mechanics, make sure we look at the balancing and stuff. Because
absolutely, we want the feedback.
Yeah.
We absolutely want as much feedback as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, the purpose of the test is to find things that are wrong with it.
Yes.
That's the whole point. The whole point is to find things that are wrong with it.
Yeah, so hopefully you won't have long... Well, you don't have long wait at all.
It's
merely weeks.
Very soon.
Merely weeks. And of course, we're in full swing of our campaign, so we'll be throwing information your way. But if you do want to keep on top of all the things, please follow us on our social channels. But not just for that reason. Phil, there's a competition, right? Am I right?
There is a competition, yes. So you can win an absolutely fantastic looking custom PC courtesy of our friends over at Overclockers. Look at that.
Beautiful.
Amazing,
I'd be reforged for that. I would go through the reforging process. I wouldn't make it, but it would be worth the effort of trying.
I would try also.
So we got the full specs over on the competition, but it does have a 4070 in there.
So spicy.
Which is,
Yeah, it could power satellites basically, is what we're saying. Yeah. It's strong. But how can you enter? There's how many entry points are there?
So there's 14 separate ways that you can enter.
Yep. Examples would be like follow socials.
So following our socials, joining the Discord,
Twitter, Insta,
yes, Twitter, Instagram,
also
YouTube.
our friends at Overclockers as well.
Exactly.
There's 14 ways to enter. But yes, we want you on our socials. Yes, we want you in our Discord. And the reason we want you there is A, we can take your feedback, which is going to be really, really important. And B, because we want to show you all the cool stuff we've got coming up. Because we're only really showing you and talking about the Stormcast today. And we are all being very careful about not to mention anything else because just off screen is our product manager. We never really talk about, but we're always here somewhere, and there will be a crossbow aimed somewhere. I'm joking, there won't be. There is. Help us. Right, and there's one more unit I wanted to talk about because I can't not talk about it, which is the Stormdrake Guard.
The Stormdrake Guard is fantastic. Again, it's another top tier.
I was going to roll out straight in the game.
Yeah, it's expensive, big, powerful. It can fly, which is really scary because normally one of the levers we're using balancing is, well, if it's really big and powerful, then it can't get around. But no, this cannon's got wings. It wouldn't really work if it didn't fly. It's got pretty wonderful abilities that you can use with it that just deal vast amounts of damage. Obviously, it's not immune from damage. It's one of our sword units, so. With enough concentrated firepower, especially ranged firepower, you've got to protect it. And especially if it's flying around in the air and you're not paying attention, then everyone's just going to be sticking arrows in it. It's not like you can miss it.
But also, I guess it's big, it's scary, it's in the air. It's a great distraction if you want to be doing something else. If you send it into the sky, people are like, deploy everything over here.
All of our testing, when we ever play it, when there's a Stormdrake Guard on the map, everyone's looking at the Stormdrake Guard. Like, where is it? Where isn't it? So, but it's basically one of their top tier units. So it takes a decent amount of effort to be bringing that one on as reinforcements.
And would it be fair to say every faction has a unit of such top tierity? Top tierity?
Top tierity.
That works.
I'm taking it. I'm making it a real word.
Every faction has one or two units of that top tierity, without a shadow of a doubt. Let's just leave it at that. Otherwise, I'll be the one that's walking around with a crossbow out in his head.
No. I don't want to say. You need to finish the game. Right. So we've seen some of the units, not all the units, some of the units. I'm going to ask some questions that I know are going to be quite loaded, and I need to be very careful with your answers. So we're trying to keep it. Do we have a favourite faction, and is it the ones that we've seen? Philippa.
I do have a favourite faction.
Here's the bus, it's coming. You're under it.
I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Right, okay, so it's not ones we've seen. Sandy?
I'm gonna cheat on this one and say I'm not sure I have a favourite faction, because every time my favourite faction currently is whatever I'm playing currently. There's things to love about it, and all the things. The way the gameplay is great and fantastic units, but sometimes it's little things like the narrator for this faction, because each of the factions has got their own kind of commander's assistant that's telling you when you've produced new units, whatever. The talent, the voice acting talent. This game is just top notch.
I mean, not to brag, but Frontier and Audio. I mean,
guess what? They've done it again. Them done it again.
Yeah.
The audio is splendiferous. I'm not even sure that's a word.
We're going to make
that is
our own
now.
words.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's great, and I can't, like I say, we'll do sort of deeper dives on this sort of stuff, because I think our growing community of fans here will want to see that sort of how the sausage is made, for want of a better term. But we'll go through some of that stuff and just show. It's a real term, isn't it? Hashtag not suitable for work. But there we go. So, talking about the units we've seen on screen today, is there a favourite from the Stormcasts? Because I know we have seen the Uruks, but we're coming to those in another show. So, if you had to pick one from the Stormcast, do you have a favourite? Maybe one you've worked on that's a favourite, or?
Yeah, mine's the Celestar Ballister by a mile.
Oh, is it because
there's just so much going on there. Yeah, it's brilliant. I just love it.
That's a good call. That's a good call. I could go with that. I'm going to go with the Knight Vexillor. The Knight Vexillor is the guy that runs around with an enormous banner flag of Sigmar.
I thought I'd lowered the tone and you were following on, Sandy, but I'm glad you
really big banner. One of the reasons I actually like him, though, it's a bit of a naughty reason, is that getting the banner to work.
Oh my!
Yes.
It's the amount of
so
effort that's gone into it, but it's all made it all worthworthile. Also in the story, there's a particular Knight Vexillor that is my favourite character in the story.
So is the banner making you twitch?
I personally, and you, have spent a lot of time working on this banner. This is like Team Flag. It's amazing. So a lot of the cloth in this game is procedurally animated. So that flag, you see it waving around. It's all under sort of just physics simulation.
It's like wind. We create wind flow, and then when he fights, he sticks it in the ground.
Yeah.
So he can fight away from it. He can move around, and then he can summon it back. So. That's very cool.
But this is what why I'm really getting across to, because I'm coming at, I guess, from a player's perspective, and I immediately noticed how much passion there is to get the little details like that right, and that is what bleeds through everything that I've seen in every faction, on every map, in every ability. It's like you haven't just. Like, it's not. You could have easily we could find an easy way to do that, but you haven't. You're like, no, we want it to look this good. We want it to react to what's going on, and you've done it. And I don't get over every time I look at this. I'm like, am I looking at an RTS or not? And I'm like, I just can't believe it. It's fantastic.
I think that all came from an offhand comment you made about, it would be nice if he could plant his flag in the ground where he goes to fight.
Your fault, Sandy.
And then it became, I'm really proud. I think it looks amazing, and I think we've got it looking amazing. But it just, all this time.
Well, I'm Team Flag, It's made us cry, so it's got to be worth it.
So you will like this flag,
be worth it. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we've had a look at the faction focus video. I think actually one of the things I want to talk about is we talked about earlier on is that this is going to be available on consoles as well as on PC. And one of the things we looked at the end of the faction focus video was something called Direct Step, which we're going to come to now and talk to you about saying now. Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin is its heart and soul as an RTS. You mentioned it right at the start, like it's built on the fundamentals of an RTS, and it's you can play it on mouse and keyboard on console as well as PC if you want to.
Yep.
So there's no compromises made anywhere. But if you want to play it on a pad, talk me through Direct Step, because this is really clever what you guys have all done here.
Well, it was part of the initial remit. Was we want as wide an audience as possible to play this game. And we want to release it on console, and of course, as you say, mouse and keyboard. We want that to work on console as if you were playing effectively on a PC. But if you want to sit and, like I do, as an old man now, and just lounge on my reclining couch and play it with a pad, you can. So we looked at the ethos of what you're trying to do in a real-time strategy game. So rather than slavishly just try and mimic a mouse cursor all the time. We wanted to get across, well, what do? You give orders and you iterate on giving orders very, very quickly. So the way we do that is when you select a unit, by default, the camera just jumps to it and locks to it, and you can now orbit it. And when you use the left stick, you're drawing out a heading indicator, and it's very much akin to being much closer to the action and giving orders by pointing over the unit's shoulders and going, go that way. And every time you press the X button on Xbox, I don't know what it is on PlayStation.
There's two X's, but they're in different places, aren't they?
One X and crossover. You're creating a little route that the unit will follow. You can create it very quickly. I know in the footage it's quite deliberately doing it quite slowly to show you how it works. But actually, the points will go down as fast as you can put them down, and you've got proper control over that indicator. It isn't just a set length. Depending on your deflection, it's bigger or longer. And when the camera is zoomed out, it grows longer to allow you to do longer distances in fewer clicks. And importantly, once you've done that, once you start giving an order, they'll follow it straight away. And at any point, you can just override it and do another one.
Yeah.
You know, you're giving these orders and responding to the enemy very quickly. It gives you surprisingly precise control, and then we've coupled that with this little jump select feature that you see, I think, in the video as well, where when you've got a unit selected and you're pointing with this heading indicator to give movement orders, at the same time, if you're pointing towards another friendly unit, you'll see its little banner light up.
So you know which one you're going to be.
Exactly, and even if it's off screen, you get an edge banner, and if you just tap select, you just jump straight to it, so you can whiz around the whole map really quickly. And it's just really... It sounds silly. It's really satisfying.
Do you know what?
It's satisfying. You can still give orders, attack ground orders, or move orders, or you can plot a path onto an enemy, and that will target the enemy. So you've got all of the functionality. It's just in a different way. It is a bit different, but I can't wait to get people to try it. I'm a big RTS player, both from PC and on console, and I was playing initially on mouse and keyboard.
And when I started using the direct step, and I know people go, "Oh, you work there, you're going to say this," but it's true. Like, it took me a while, and I'm not going to lie to me. Once my muscle memory worked it out, though, it was very fluid, and I knew what I was doing straight away, and that was a lot more intuitive than I have played on other RTS games and consoles.
Now,
so just takes a bit of time.
Now, what it's important to note that we don't want a prescribed way of playing the game either. So, a lot of RTSs, what you tend to have is a reticle where you move the screen around, and then you, in the central screen where the reticle is, you select units that way. Well, we've got that as well. So and even if I say to myself, quite cool, you can just toggle between them at any point. So you can be.
I didn't know that part actually.
Well, there cool. You can be giving a unit these direct step orders, and if you want to give a particularly huge distance order, or just look as well as giving an order and look around with the camera, you can just toggle reticle mode. And then the camera detaches with the unit still selected. You can move the camera around, and you can still give move orders to this point. You can actually still even use a form of jump select with that mode by holding down, I think, the select button and pointing towards squads and adding them to your selection.
I can't wait for players to get hold of this in the beta.
Yeah, absolutely.
And give it a go. And again, feedback will be great, but I think honestly, spend some time with it. Once you pick this up, like on a console player particularly, you're really going to enjoy direct step.
I know that some of our internally in our play testing, some of our best players are using the direct step method and a gamepad over a mouse and keyboard.
Maybe that's how Sally beat me.
Mouse and keyboard's great, and it's razor precise, and it always will be. And we just tried to get the gamepad as close as possible.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to change the way mouse and keyboard worked really.
But it's inclusive. You said anyone can play any way they want.
Exactly.
So you can play on a control pad on console. You can play a mouse and keyboard on the console, and you can play against other console users or against PC players.
Yes.
That's what we're aiming for, so that everyone can play an RTS together.
Everyone's equally deserving of being involved in mass destruction and death.
Yep.
Yeah, this the box quote for you. All right, so if you've just joined us, well, where have you been? But welcome. What we're going to do, I'm going to do a real brief recap, I think, Phil, just in case people join. And I want to play the trailer again. So if you have just joined us, welcome to our first ever live stream of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin. We have been joined by the wonderful Philippa and Sandy from the development team. We've been talking through the Stormcast Eternal's faction focus video, which I'm actually going to get producer Adam to play for you right now.
Peggy 16.
The Stormcast Eternals are mortal heroes that have been transformed into supernatural warriors in the forges of Azir. Each the embodiment of Sigmar's storm. They are the God King's wrath made manifest, and they were created for one single purpose: outright war. While they may be few, when a Stormcast Eternal falls, they are brought back time and time again to fight anew. In Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin, you will command the mighty Stormcast Eternals in their quest to defend an ailing Dawnbringer settlement from unrelenting raids by the wicked and savage Orc Kruleboys. Sigrun, commander of a detachment of Stormcast Eternals, embarks on a perilous mission to the wild and savage swamps of Gur. She seeks to obtain a great artifact that will help them turn the tides against the Orc menace. The Stormcast Eternals are a robust, elite army that excel when fighting in a combined force of frontline fighters and ranged attackers. Their access to a variety of different troops and reliance on well-rounded forces requires a hefty investment of resources to hold their ground. The steadfast Stormcast Eternal heroes have abilities to heal and resurrect fallen units, or lead from the front with devastating charges and powers that call down the storm to obliterate enemies. As commander, you'll have access to a wide range of units, including annihilators, formidable and elite soldiers, emboldened by impervious thunderstrike armor, and devastating meteoric hammers. Prosecutors, warrior heralds of Sigmar, who soar through the battlefield at incredible speeds, unhindered by the grasping swamps of Gur. And finally, the mighty Stormdrake Guard, dragon-riding knights capable of annihilating enemy hordes with lance, claw, and righteous wormflame. Issuing the right commands is just as crucial as the squads you bring to the battlefield. When playing with a gamepad, you'll have access to an innovative control scheme that gives you the tactical flexibility you need to conquer your enemies. With the direct step system, you'll enjoy the immediacy of traditional real-time strategy controls mapped onto a controller. Issue orders, snap instantly between squad selections, and use a classic RTS camera view to survey distant forces and objectives. Then experience the pounding heart of battle up close and execute precise commands as the clash intensifies. Direct Step enables you to quickly respond to the conflict as it evolves, activating squad abilities, creating groups of squads, and balancing a war across multiple fronts. The Stormcast Eternals are just one of 4 factions coming to Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin.
All right, fantastic. Saw a couple of questions that are in there. Latest one, can you get married in a game? I don't think that's the feature we've added. Maybe one for the feedback after the beta.
10 for unusualness, though.
Yeah, but there were some other questions in there. So is it crossplay?
Yes.
It is crossplay. So mention how the spells work.
Yeah, so our spells, we fold them into the abilities. Because otherwise it would get too complicated to an interface at the very least. So that's how they work. Yeah.
And was there another question that I missed? Or did I get them all that I saw apart from the marriage one, which I noticed? And I also noticed someone said about the awkward silence. It's because I threw Adam under the bus about playing the trailer again. So props to producer Adam. But once again,
there was also a question about resources.
Oh yeah,
abilities using resources.
Yes, their abilities use resources.
They do
use resources. So. Oh yes, can units retreat? They can retreat. Yes.
I think possibly you saw some retreating in there. Yeah, you can retreat units.
Yeah, and it's honestly it's probably the most used function of my army, as Sally will tell you, because we just ran away everywhere. There's a runaway attack. It's like a bit of Monty Python. Run away, run away. All right, look, there's loads more we need to cover off, and I'm sure we will do. But I'm going to recap really quickly. What you've just seen there is the faction focus video for the incredible Stormcast Eternal, just one of 4 factions coming to Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin later on this year. So we will have more shows for you. We'll feature more factions, I'm sure. But this is a real-time strategy coming to both Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5 and PC. It is cross-play. It's incredible. It features mouse and keyboard support on your desired platform and controller on your desired platform. We've got more to share and more to come. But if you want to stay ahead of all of our news and bag yourself an amazing PC, please make sure you are following us on all of our socials, on our Twitter, on our Facebook, on our Instagram, join our Discord, follow our friends at Overclockers, and then you'll be another chance to win this incredible PC, which is a 4070 graphics card, I believe, that's in there, which is incredible. But that's not all. That's not all. And everyone's been asking to play the game. Well, you can in only just a mere weeks. You'll be able to play, get your hands on Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin in an open beta where you get the full access to the entirety of the Stormcast Eternals and the naughty Orc Crawl Boys. Please remember, we're looking for feedback. This is literally to test the game. We expect things to break. We want you to break things. We want you to look at balancing. We need your help to make the game as good as it can be come its release later this year. But to everyone on the couch, well done, Phil. It's your first show. You've done really well. So don't worry, it's very nerve-wracking. To Philippa, So Sandy, always wonderful to spend some time with you. I know you're really, really busy, so thanks for taking some time out of your busy days to come and talk to us and everyone on stream. Will you come back?
Please.
Yeah,
if you ask
right.
nicely.
Go on then.
All right, yeah, okay.
Excellent.
So we'll be back very, very shortly, but soon, with another live stream. We'll be showcasing some more things you may or may not have seen. Until that time, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Peggy 16.
Commander, there is the stench of death about this place. Not just from the Oryx.
Death comes for everyone. Eventually. Except us. Fortify our position. We must claim this swamp.
Enemy sighted.
Sneaky does it.
Sigmar, give me strength!
Think it's time for a fight, boys! Wah! Protect the bastion! We need the loot! Like flies to a corpse! They always come!
Aiden, I will take the fight to the Orc Warlord. You hold here.
Fate conspires against us both.
Not fate.